We were talking about BOCES around. I know. I was thinking about that today. Okay, we all set? Okay, if we could, we'll start the meeting with the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, could I get a, thank you, everybody, for that. Can I get a motion to approve tonight's meeting agenda?
I'll motion.
Can I get any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, thank you. Can I get a motion? Well, I'll do the motion. Motion by me to move into public hearing amended district-wide school safety plan for 2025 through 2026 portion of the board meeting. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I think it just went off when I turned it off. Now done.
Okay. All those in favor? Okay, I will introduce Miss Maureen Philip and Ladd, the school business manager, to present the public hearing portion of the board meeting. After the presentation, Ms. Ladd will ask if there's any questions from the public.
Okay.
You gonna do this without a screen?
Sure, I have one right up there. I
Oh,
can.
okay.
It's actually really easy because this is an amended, updated district safety plan. We had to, the district safety plan is just the one piece, the one document of 5 different documents that make up the district safety plan. This one is the comprehensive, multi-hazard plan. Can you hear me? Oh. How about if I go quicker or closer? So we're required to have this for the emergency responses and management at the district level. So this is the one that's on the district website and does not include a lot of the details that the building level plans include. Basically what happened was over the summer, the governor signed into law audacious law, which is to add the emergency cardiac response plan to our district-wide safety plans. What happened is basically, because of some students that had collapsed on fields, she wanted to formalize this and add it to our district safety plans. All districts already have these plans, so for us, we just had to basically kind of get it back out and get it amended into the form that it could go into the district safety plan. So the new requirements are that we have a new public hearing and update our district safety plan with the cardiac arrest emergency response piece. It needs to be done by January 20th, hence tonight's public meeting again. Basically, we have included the protocols and the responses that are needed for the sudden cardiac arrest and any other life-threatening emergencies. So we have to adopt the plan. It includes where our AED equipment is, that we have the AED equipment, that we have signage, that how we maintain them, who's trained, and who responds. So tonight, you'll have in the board packet, it is item, I thought I wrote it here somewhere. Yeah, it's item H2, and there's a new highlighted section in this third section under responses that includes all of the cardiac responses that are necessary. The district-wide safety committee had to be formed, which is why this wasn't done at the October or the August meeting for September 1. The district safety committee was formed. We met on November 12th, and everybody approved the revisions, and now we're here tonight to bring them to the board for your approval. So that's basically the long and short of it. It's just an amendment to the plan that we already have to include the cardiac response piece. Is there any questions, comments? And we had to formally do public session again. We had it in the paper again for public comment. And if anybody has any questions, you are allowed to ask questions before we close. Anybody? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Maureen.
Okay, can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
A motion.
Can I get a second? Any discussion? All those in favor? Can I get a motion to open the regular meeting?
A motion.
Can I get a second? Any discussion? All those in favor? Do we have any blue cards? No blue cards? Okay, on to item D, special presentation to the board. We're going to do staff recognition for 20 and 15 years. Invite all the board members into the ring.
The hugger zone? All right, so we are here tonight to recognize some many years of service for our staff. So to start, we will recognize the staff who are in attendance that have 20 years of service, and we're going to start with Amy Catlin. 20 years of service. Go through the hugger zone. There's treats. 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 Our next staff member is Jennifer Crandall. I'll be formal, Jennifer Crandall. Our next staff member is Melissa Della Posta. Congratulations. Next, we have Denise Hawkins, 20 years of service. We have Barb Montclair with 20 years of service. We have Joni Pierce with 20 years of service. And Katrina Vant with 20 years of service. Uh-huh. Those staff members with 20 years of service that were not able to make it tonight, very quickly, are Miriam Garrow, Jesse Green, Stephanie Hall, Brian Hatch, Ryan Hendry, Margaret LeVay, Diane Ma, Richard Maraglia, Bonnie Murphy, Martha Plant, Janelle Popovich, Jennifer Shantz, Dean Schluter, and Vicki Turow. So those all have 20 years of service. So those staff members with 15 years of service that are here is Diane Gibbons. And those staff members with 15 years that were unable to join us tonight are Eric Eli, Michelle Gladle, Louisa Johnson, Christine Messina, Mark Shaughnessy, Allison Week, and Eric Wetzig. There are treats on the other side, and then are you going to do a group picture, Jordan, with all of them? And a group picture, so everybody with 20 years of service, go get your treats. Well, anybody can go get treats.
But I just wondered when I heard the commercial, I
just
wondered
started
out
school.
loud to myself, I wonder if they use the same book as you were talking about, the federal book.
God,
I wonder if they
these
use
kids are
the
gonna walk
same
on
book,
stage. We're gonna be
because
giving
they were just talking about United Way doing like a campaign for giving.
God.
But it wasn't just federal, it was like across the board.
All right, here we go.
And so
Okay, Maureen, you can start with, we're back on? Okay.
Are we back
Our
on?
3-year projection, long-range planning. It's my favorite one.
It is. Mine too. So this is an exercise that is basically required, highly recommended, I guess I would say by SED and Comptroller's Office. They want you to do some projections out, 3-year, 5-year. I only do 3 because it looks so bad the further out you go. And it's just hard to take. So I do 3. And to set it up, you basically put your 24, 25 actual numbers. So these are the numbers that we closed with this year. These are the numbers that are on our financials. If you do the revenues in the pie chart, you can see that obviously state aid is our biggest contributor to revenue and the tax levy. And we sometimes use fund balance, and we have other small revenue sources. And the same on the expenditure side. Salary and benefits basically make up the bulk of our expenditures. We spend a good amount at BOCES. Our debt service is basically the mortgage payments that we have on our capital projects. And we spend 5% on all other. And that's everything basically that we talk about all the time is really only 5% of the budget. And utilities and fuel is 2%. This is the same breakdown of numbers, and it's the budget we're currently in. So we have a $102.6 million budget that we're currently operating under. And when you put it in the pie graphs, it's almost the identical set of percentages. And as I say all the time, I think these percentages are very hard to change. They basically stay the same no matter what we do with it. And it's no different than most other districts in the state of New York, which we'll talk about later on. So what I do, this is the comptroller's, what do you want to say, what the agenda or whatever you want to say that I use. You put that actual against the budget of the year that just closed, and you set it next to the budget that we're currently in, and you start projecting forward on those numbers. Some of the things that we do know right now going forward is that currently the ERS or TRS number is projected to go down slightly. It's not at 9.59 right now, and they're projecting between 8.25 and 8.75. The ERS projections are to go up. It's currently sitting at 16.5%, projected to go up to 17.6%. Sometimes I'm not sure if it's clear, but every employee in the district is a civil service. Either you're certified and you're under the TRS system, or you're civil service and you're under the ERS system. So we pay on every salary that we have in the district. And also, health insurance, they had basically said they're trying to keep in the 7-8%, possibly 9 this year. So for this purpose, I just did the 7. So how this, basically these projections move is we take all of the expenditures and we take year 1, year 2, year 3 estimates of what this entails. So I'm using 4% across the salary lines. I'm using ERS and TRS, 1 and 2% on the out years, but 20 and 10 right now because the number I currently have is too low. So I need to bump it up knowing what's coming. And I put 7s on the health insurance. BOCES, I'm using 3% on the actual number. If I go back to this slide right here, you can see the BOCES number, and the current year actual is higher than the budget year we have right now. And that's the same with the appropriations. And so basically, I take the 3% on that actual number just for something to project out. And up on the revenue side, I have tax levy at 2%, on each of the out years. The appropriated fund balance going down $500,000 each year and leaving the other revenues at the 2.6 million. So as you go through this and put those projections in, you can see the negatives across the bottom. This is the 2% state aid increase. This is a 3% state aid increase and a 4% state aid increase. Now, these are just real generalizations across it, but it's easy enough to show. I'm going back to the two again. If you look at the expenditures, the percentage increase across the bottom, it's a 5.2, a 3.9, and a 3.39. Those are in the range. If our salaries are at 4% and our benefits are higher, we're going to be somewhere in the 4 or 5%. So the discussion becomes getting enough revenue to meet the expenditures. The numbers are big. They won't be that big. Obviously, 2% is on the total state aid, and we have expense-driven aids, and we have building aid formulas that are rolling. So it will be more than 2% per se, but the foundation aid at 2% is going to hurt. And so as we look at these projections, I think the number one piece that we need to understand is we need to make some decisions this year. Over the last 3 or 4 years, we've been adding, big time adding, essentially because of all the COVID money. So, I mean, we had money that we had to add, and now we kind of need to get back in track with what our state aid is going to be. We have a program called Forecast 5 Analytics, and I like to use some of these when I have a chance, because these are in comparison with other. You can pick your districts or you can pick the state. So this right here is our district's revenue by source, just in a graph. So you can see that the blue is the taxes, and basically the orange is the state aid or the foundation aid. And you can see that the taxes really haven't come up much because, as we've discussed in the past, we had not been taxing up to the tax cap. So we have been getting increases in state aid. And a lot of that is due to the expense-driven aid. And this last one is, remember, building aid came on because of the capital project. This next graph is that property tax. As you can see, the property tax has slightly been going up over the years. The zeros you can see in the 21, 22, 23 because they stayed equal. The difference between the blue line and the orange is the star reimbursement. As time goes by, less money is received through star. As people sell their homes, star is actually not given to them as a credit on their taxes. It's a check that comes in the mail, so it kind of changes that graph a little bit. On the expenditure side, this is basically the same. The yellow is the wages, the green are the employee benefits. So you can see that those are the two biggest. And as I always say, these generally don't change. They're all getting slightly larger or proportionately the same as we move forward. These are the expenditures by type. And I like this graph because it shows how much the health insurance is the benefits in total. That's the green portion of these lines. And it continues to stay that large. So health insurance is something that we can always try to work on to have some larger savings. This is the last 6 years of our revenues versus our expenditures, our actuals. And I picked this graph to show you because in the 20, 21, 22, we had some bigger swings. 22, the negative 4.7 was when we put all the money into the capital project. We moved the 3.2 million over, and we put some money in reserves. But the reason I like this graph, because if you look at 24, 25, you can see how close it's getting to the revenue, which that basically shows that I'm slowly taking all of the, the buffer out of any of the expenditure lines. This graph shows our fund balance over the years, the last 6 years. The blue is our restricted funds, yellow assigned, the green is the non-spendable, which we have used up and reclassified, and the orange is the unassigned. So the orange is the 4% piece. And we're starting to go down on the fund balance in general. And I just like these next set of, this is actually Central Square by itself the last 6 years. The gray line is enrollment. So enrollment is slightly going down. The blue line are students with disabilities, which remain the same and are slightly going up in the last 2 years. So the percentage of students with disabilities against our totals is going up due to that little shift of differences. And I think it's interesting, the orange line is the economic disadvantage percentage. And as I keep saying, it's gone down again. We're getting richer as far as that projection goes, which does not help our foundation aid formulas at all. This is us against the 9 districts in our county. We are not the largest last year. Oswego beat us by, 3 students. But if you look at the low-income percentage at the end, the 46.7, we are basically the lowest except for Oswego. So that is where we do look, I always say we're the wealthiest of the poor districts of the whole county. This is Central Square against the state in total. So the first to the left is the revenues as a percentage of total. So we have state aid is the orange and taxes is the blue. That's Central Square, but the state in total, on average, gets less of their money from state aid and more of it from taxes. So that's why we are highly dependent on state aid. The graphs on the outside are just as a per pupil number versus a total. This one is the expenditures in the same graphs. And this is where I always say to you, we don't spend any differently than the rest of the state. As you can see, the state by category lines up just like we do. All districts are made up of probably 75% is salary and benefits. On the far side is the per pupil breakdown, and we do spend less per pupil than the state in total on average. This is the operating expenditures per pupil for Oswego County. Central Square is down almost to the bottom. Phoenix is the only one that's underneath us. And everybody else, so the average is the line out there. So we are well under average. So we do well with the budget that we have. This graph I like because this is the fund balance as a percentage of revenues. And we do have a fairly low fund balance as a percentage of revenues compared to the other districts in our county. This is the enrollment trend, and it does project out to 27 when you input the live births. And I'm using a factor saying 100% of the live births will show up at the district. And doing that, you can see that we really are projected to just go flat in the out years. We shouldn't be experiencing any more decline per the birth rates in our district.
Interesting, when I started here 11 years ago, that was a Seversky study, and he's like 10 years from now, that study said it's going to do exactly what it did right there.
Yeah, and it's amazing that he was able to get it that close, for sure. So where do we go from here? Obviously, we need to, as administration, cabinet, board, work on looking at ways that we can save. In January, the executive budget will be released, and that's where we'll start. February through March, we'll do budget development, we'll make fund balance decisions, we'll make tax levy decisions, and then in April, we'll adopt the budget. In May, we'll have a public hearing, and May 19th, I have that date wrong, we will go for vote. The vote is always the third Tuesday in May. And I left I think I left that 20 there from the prior presentation. And that's just a little rendition of what we have going on and some of the, I like those graphs. I just think it's important to share them with you, just where our data points are compared to the county and the state. Does anyone have any questions, comments?
I don't, just to clarify, because I think, you know, especially this year with what happened during the budget season and the amount of misunderstandings and misinformation that was out there, I don't have your graphs in front of me, but two primary points strike me in that presentation, which is one, we get more than half, substantially more than half of our money to fund this education in our district from the state.
Correct.
And so if 70, is that about right? 70% of our money is coming in and increasing by only 2%.
Correct.
Then the other piece of the pie, which is primarily the taxpayers, has to make up the difference, because that's, is this the?
This is
Okay.
that, yep. So 63% is state aid.
Okay.
37% is tax levy.
Right, so
Yes.
2/3
Yep.
almost, and then a
Yep.
third of the pie, you know, is the tax levy. And if 2/3 goes up by 2%, and we're overall on average 4, 5, 6%
Mm-hmm.
in terms of the increase just from inflation, from contracts, things that we can't do anything with other than fire people, or, you know, it's not extras. This is all just contractual stuff. If that's going up 2%, then 1/3's got to go up 6 to make up that difference. And so it's important for the taxpayers to understand, you know, while it's been nice for us to be able to not hit the tax cap every year, or any year, really, since I've been on the board, you know, there's got to be some kind of balance in terms of we don't have the ability to negotiate. Those rates are given to us, the 2% or whatever we get from the state. That's not negotiable. And obviously, I'm a taxpayer in this district, so is everyone at this table. You know, that's not negotiable either, except for what they did, which was to vote it down. So that's important. And then on the other side of things, with benefits and the insurance, I think it was 4% and 7% increases, and that's 70% of our budget or more. So it's,
Yes.
again, if you've got things increasing at 5 and 6% on average for 2/3 of the budget, and the other third has to decrease substantially, you know, almost 10%, just to make that balance and have no increase. And so, you know, it's two things that I guess I'd like the public to have a better understanding of when they're considering their votes for the budget. You know, as much as nobody wants to pay, you know, any more money than anybody has to, you know, something's got to give, essentially. And I do think that, you know, the board has tried its best for the recent years anyways to let that give fall on the taxpayers. And so hopefully at some point they will, you know, accept that give themselves, so that we can continue to provide similar programming as we're providing, or better, as we've been trying to do, so.
Yep. And that's where I think, like this, we know these graphs, we do them every year, we understand them, they're there, they're on the website. I mean, anybody can see them, but people do not engage in this process, you know? And I don't exactly know what, we've tried all sorts of things, you know,
And I,
so.
and I think this is a year of reckoning, really. You know, we've taken money out of the fund balance the last 2 years. And when the state decides to only give us 2% increase, and everything on your graph, I only saw 2%.
I know.
Okay? and you know, I'm not an educator, but I have a business degree. These numbers aren't going to add up.
They're not gonna
They're
add
not,
up.
and not
That's-
going to add up. And I don't know where even going to the max is going to help, because it's not going to help.
No,
And-
we're going
and
to have to
so-
make some decreases.
and I would like to say that it would fall on sympathetic ears with our local legislature, you know, at the state level, but to me, their phone needs to be ringing off the hook, because if they think that they can collect state tax money and only give 2% to this district, it for me personally, it's unacceptable in that when we don't control health costs, right? But we want to be able to provide, good coverage. We want to be able to do all the right things, but we're not going to be able to afford it. We're not going to be able to afford it. So I see big cuts coming.
And everything that
personally.
happens too across the state anymore, that there, every knee-jerk reaction is then a mandate for the school, even though nobody wants to say that out loud. We're doing everything nowadays.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Not just education.
And people can
We're
say,
their health care, we're their food, we're their, we're their everything.
people can say that we've had a steady decline. Why is the budget where it's at? Well, it's very easy to go back and say that one little line about the special ed numbers climb, which is, it's very costly. But it's not even just that. We didn't have police officers in every building, which we have 6 right now, right? 1 in each building. We didn't have elementary counselors at all in any of the buildings. They're full caseloads. We didn't have social workers at the elementary buildings. And for the families that say, well, but my kid doesn't need that, but I take those phone calls when a student is in crisis and flips the desk and the state says you can't restrain that kid, you have to get everybody else out of the room. Those are the things that, why we have the counselors, the social workers, why we have increased our partnership with Arise and Liberty Resources. So to your point, we're expected to do all of that now, the social, the emotional. The state hasn't changed the fact that our administrators have to do the observations in classrooms and yet still take care of all those other things. Today I covered Brewerton Elementary. Kristen Enright covered, you were at the middle school, right? High school, middle school covering. And so it is all hands on deck, but we are looking at things and looking at certain data points over the past, 4 or 5 years on programs that we had invested in that didn't show the numbers that we needed. So we're able to look at that, make data-driven decisions, because that's the way that it's going to have to be, because we're only going to get the 2%. Gone are the days of the 4% foundation aid, which was great. Students come up and say, hey, we want flag football. Yeah, that's great. Now we can't just have that knee-jerk reaction and say, wow, that's going to be great for kids to be involved. We have to look at the limited amount of money that we have and the appetite for the community of not wanting to go up to the tax cap. And so those are decisions, and we're going to start the road shows again. And I put it out there, different organizations, please have me ask questions. But we need to start those conversations now, because it's almost Christmas break. Before you know it, we're going to be sitting here adopting a budget and moving forward.
Well, and I think anytime there's a question as far as how the district is run, the cost per student is below the state average. And to me, that's the key out of all the slides that, other than we're going in the hole, the slide is that you're doing a fantastic job for under the cost of the average school district in New York State, and I think that's something to be applauded. So, the mantra of, oh, they're wasting money. No, that's not what's happening at Central Square School District. It's not what's happening. We're very efficient. We're frugal. All the things that we're trying to do to facilitate a well-run district, we're below the cost of average. I don't know, maybe I'll get in trouble, but I remember sitting down with Will Barkley. To me, I wouldn't support that guy for nothing. Nothing. He said, well, we spend more money. Well, not Central Square. Central Square doesn't. And yet he thinks, and when you're getting the percentage we rely on from the state aid, he's clueless when it comes to that. And he's put us into a pinch where we're expecting a third of our budget to be made up. You could go out with an 8 to 10%
Right.
increase,
It's not
and it's
gonna
not
cut
going to
it.
make it up.
Exactly.
So as I told him, you've got skin in this game. I won't put it as I'll go a little bit on Tim McCarthy here, but no understanding of what's going on and the money that is required, that the state requires us to do, but yet you got no skin in the game.
Right.
I'll leave it at that.
Well, I'd like to have the union, maybe they should start getting more involved again. Years past, the union used to do, the leaders in the, would get phone trees going and call everybody in the community and tell them what's going on and ask them to get out and vote. But that hasn't been done in years. So maybe they need to step up and start doing that again.
Well, and I think, I think it's all hands on deck at this point in terms of a community position. Obviously, the budget failed, and we had more people at a board meeting, at the following board meeting, than we'd had in a long, long time since the days of voting to close the middle school. And so, community involvement, coming to the meetings, getting informed, spreading the word, again, all of us obviously come to these meetings and we watch these presentations and we send out the 50 texts to all of our friends and family in the district, asking them to go support the budget. But, it's, imagine if that was done by 500 people, if the community, the boosters came, they wanted to help, and that's the thing is people become complacent, right? A budget's gonna pass, it always passes, and then I don't have to go vote, I don't have to inconvenience myself, and then this is what happens. And so it's great that it seemed like there was a good portion of people that were energized by the fact that, things didn't go the way that they were expecting them to go, but.
And hopefully they'll take some lead there.
Right, and it's gotta sustain though.
Right.
It can't drop off because next year maybe passes or whatever.
And we had the $1.2 million. We had the $1.2 million that we had to make up. We could because it was only a 2% increase. So if it stays just a 2% increase, we're pulling more than just 1.2 to cover all the other additional expenses that we just talked about with the rising healthcare costs and other contractual items. So that's what people need to understand is that when we got rid of like the 5:30 shuttle, people realize that's gone. We got rid of the paying for all of the elementary supplies. A lot of schools, they don't do that. Starting next year, that's when people are going to realize that because the supplies had already been purchased for this school year. So, but then it's going to be tapping into some extracurriculars. I mean, there's only so much you can do. You'll see larger class sizes. You'll see things that what made this district very special with just a huge assortment of extracurricular activities and sports and band, things that, kids sitting around the table right here with DECA and other sports that we have been able to, take advantage of, and they look really good for whatever career path they go into. Those are the things that we now have to look at. But
the pie chart of the 5% is not going to solve this problem.
Right, that's
Okay? It's not going
No,
to solve the
it's-
problem.
It's gotta come from the
It's-
bigger chunks, it
it's the
just has
bigger-
to.
It's the bigger chunks.
Yeah, so
It's the
it-
salaries and
it's-
benefits.
It's, I mean, last year it kind of solved it, but it helped putting $3 million out of the savings account into the checking account.
Right.
We're not doing that because the fund balance is down to back where when I first got on the board 9 years ago. We're back down to those numbers, and we can't. It's just not sustainable. Household Economics 101. Okay, now we got that great news out of the way. If I could get a motion for item E in its entirety? Get a second? Any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you very much. Could I get a motion for item F, consent agenda in its entirety?
All motion?
Get a second? Any discussion?
One quick question.
Okay.
The small buses for maintenance, I saw that we purchased those through the have, or have we done that in the past, or is it traditionally always done through the bid process?
That we lost in that accident.
I was referencing the two small buses purchased for maintenance.
Oh, yeah, we did a bid on those, just
Right.
for used ones. I mean, I don't know if you saw the
Yeah, I
criteria.
did see that.
Yeah.
Traditionally, we bid out to an outside source and not repurpose our own.
No, traditionally, we repurpose our own. We
Okay.
just don't have any.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? Okay, on to item G. Who's going to lead us? Emma?
Yes, I
All
will.
right, take it away.
All right. Well, DECA has its regional competition Tuesday, December 16th, just like you were talking about. Our school is a very big chapter, and their final preparation meeting is tomorrow, and we are really excited to see them compete, including myself. The polar plunge took place yesterday at Oneida Shores in Brewerton. It was very cold. The Special Olympics raised over $165,000 with the help of Central Square, and many took the plunge, including myself. And the girls' JV and varsity basketball team won their first game of the season on Friday the 2nd. We had some people come out, and they're excited for their Coaches versus Cancer game that's coming up in January. And the student government had its NYSCLSA conference in Niagara Falls from November 23rd to the 25th, and it was a great success for our school and our state as a whole, and we're really excited for next year's in Syracuse.
Yeah, as Christmas is coming around, we are talking about Spirit Weeks and different events that our school will be partaking during school hours. Little things like candy caning, like different cars, and paying for gifts for fellow students. Sports are starting up. Track has its meet coming up, and boys and girls wrestling just had a tournament themselves, which they did really good at, so I applaud them for that. We had the Jingle Bell Jog. That went really well. Our community really showed up for that, and it was really nice, and a lot of people came to support, and it was a very, very nice event. I applaud all the teachers that came. BOCES had a 10th grade orientation, which went super well. I think it was very well organized, especially to previous years. It was clean in, clean out, and I think all of the students said that they're very well informed and are really excited for what's coming. And I'm really applauding our tech team for our new Central Square page. It looks super nice, and I've heard nothing but good things. So, good job. And that's all I have.
Okay, board member report. Anybody have anything to talk about? Other than Christy and I will both be judges at DECA next week. So study hard.
So I just want to talk about the
Of the mics. How about this one? Hello. Can you hear me now? Remember that commercial? This one's dead too. I'll talk loud. I give up.
So it was good that it went to the one day. When it was originally the overnight, we just did not have the chaperones to be able to do that. We were paying for substitutes as well, and it became very costly. And at that point, it was the haves and have-nots, because only a quarter back years ago, when I started 10, 11 years ago, you only had a quarter of the kids going. So you can't even call it a class trip. So when they do day trips, that's a lot better. But the issue that we have, and I'm super happy and grateful to the PTO to want to be able to spearhead things like this, but if the cost is 160 and we have a lot of families, let's say, that struggle with that number, then we're putting ourselves in a spot where the ones that can afford it can go, and the ones that can't can fundraise. But very similar to what we used to have with Winter Guard, it was like $4,000, but you could fundraise, but a lot of the families didn't have time because they're working to be able to fundraise when other ones did. So if the board feels that, first off, I'd have to say, like, it's good to be able to have the, what do you call it there, the survey. We had a survey for girls wrestling, and we had 50 kids, and we only had 2 that really ended up wanting to do it. So if the numbers, I guess what we'd have to look into is, what's the cutoff? So if we're talking half the students are going to go, now the district's going to pay the cost for the substitutes. We had the fun nights, but the fun nights actually cost us about $1,500 a night to put on, because we had to pay the chaperones at their contractual rate to be able to supervise that. So that first presentation we saw right there, we have difficult decisions we have to make. So we're not in a situation where the district can incur costs that that have to go to things that are more of a programmatic expense. So I do think it's important that it is talked about here. It used to be talked about a lot at board meetings, the 8th grade trip. So I think we just need to figure out where everybody is at with that and what the overall cost would end up being on the district.
I have a few questions. When we I remember, Tom, because I think Steve and I, and maybe a couple other, were on the board when we ended up sending it back, essentially. We didn't forbid the trips, but we just, it was like you said, there was 25% of the kids going. A lot of the staff members that were going weren't even 8th grade, so it was disrupting all of the grade levels, and so it was a lot different. So I guess since it's been there for 2 years, I mean, has the what has the participation been? Like what percentage of students have gone the last 2 years? And I know you don't have the data, but.
We went to Seabreeze. So last year was $100. We went to Seabreeze, and our class was like 280, and we had 215-ish that went.
Right, so that's like 75, 80%?
And the only reason why some of the band kids didn't go, because they had Seabreeze the next day.
Oh, for their event?
It just worked that way, so I'm sure it would have been larger if those kids.
Okay.
Some people did go twice.
Okay,
And then the year prior was our first year. It was overwhelming. They like 3/4 of the kids.
yeah, so 70, okay.
It was a lot, yeah.
And then with the fundraising, like I remember Kenny did it 2 years ago, and it was like you guys did direct subs night. There was group fundraising, but there's also individual fundraising? Okay. And I think it was candy bars that he had to sell?
You guys had candy bars.
Yep.
Last year we did pretzels. So basically if you sold 4 boxes, you could go for free.
Okay. And when is the trips when?
Trips in June.
Okay.
Casey, did the survey put something out to the parents to say, would you commit to this so we would know the numbers? Or was the survey like, were the kids excited? Is this where you want to go? Or did the parent actually have the opportunity to say, yes, I'll pay for that?
That's a great question. So our survey said
I can say as an 8th grade parent that I received the survey. I knew everything I needed to know about it because I heard it from my 8th grade student going into that. And as a parent, it was very clear. This is what your options are. Where would you like your kid to go if these are the choices, and what the cost would be. So, I mean, anybody that responded knew what they were responding to and what their interest would be.
if you wanted to chaperone, so we also got between 40 and 50 parents that wanted to chaperone.
Yeah.
Right, which obviously, to Tom's point, it's not a committal, right? But I'm just saying, from the 2 years that you've done it with the one-day trip, it's been above 50% participation.
Correct. And the parents, I had 40 parents last year, and then
and 38 your year.
Okay, which I didn't go. My son forbid me to go,
And
so.
I think my junior would go back to eighth grade for the trip if he could. He was one that missed it. And yes, and my oldest went, loved it, and my youngest really wants to go. So I think that's kind of the general consensus of the students, parents. We got to find a way to make it happen for them.
Well,
There's
and-
opportunity to do that.
And not for nothing, but it's 8 months away. I mean, there's 8 months of time. I mean, I'm sure there's got to be a point where you can check in and see who's fundraised, what their status is, if they're going to need help, you know.
We already have 3 fundraisers down. We have at least 2 more community ones to go, and then I'll get the pretzels soon.
Okay, and so the group fundraising, does that defray the cost for everybody? So that, the 160 is the raw cost?
So basically, last year we fundraised enough.
They're pretty excited for the coach buses too. They're really cool. It's all part of it. I've heard all about it, and I don't need to hear about it.
I have an 8th grader too, but she has not mentioned a word, nor do I think she probably will go. But that's her own choice. It's not financial. It's just, you know, there's certain students that don't want to go. So, but I think for the students that want to go, it sounds like there's ample opportunity for them to be able to go despite this financial status. So, you know, hopefully that can all work out. And then is there kind of a trap door for the students that end up unable to meet the cost but still want to go? That being said, I still think that people should contribute effort to try to do that.
When does that be booked by? All right, let me circle back and see, I mean, obviously, it's gonna be pulling the 8th grade teachers out, right?
Last year I looked, and it looked to be between 2 and 3 teachers.
Wait, so if half the students or more are gone, I mean, 2 teachers per team would probably be sufficient to be able
Well,
to.
that's the thing, is if that's the case and that many do go,
I'm talking 8th grade, not 6th, not 7th and 6th. 2 teachers per team of 5 8th grade, like the 3 teams of 8th grade.
correct. So if that's the way that it works, and it's not that half the 8th graders don't go, and we have, 150 of them that we now have to figure out
Do
supervision.
something with.
Right, so when will you have those numbers?
Which one's your?
The numbers of the kids that are actually fully committed? There gotta be a point where if they're gonna go, they have to pay by a certain amount and
Oh,
commit.
it won't be until, I don't have to have final payments in.
But there has to be some part of the payment to like get.
Sure, I think that I would probably kick it off at like 5/1.
Then that'll give us an idea of how many kids are actually gonna go on this, is what I.
Right, yeah, you'll have like a month.
But Casey, could you send another parent survey asking for parents to commit as to whether they
I
plan?
can do whatever you.
You know,
I- I would like that just because then I can then say, yes, there's ample, there's more than enough kids that wanna go to this, that the district's not gonna have to accrue a cost of the substitutes.
You want to fill the parents.
Yes, yeah, the parents, 100%, because the kids are gonna be like, yeah, I'm going.
Yeah.
I just,
Okay.
and again, I don't want anyone to think that I'm standing.
And Tom, just because I remember when Kenny went, and again, I didn't chaperone, but I remember there was like you have to transport yourself, you have to pay for yourself, the chaperones, which all was fine and dandy, but is there a certain ratio that they have to keep for staff versus just parent chaperone?
Yeah, there is. So
Okay.
the parent chaperone
So is there some type of ratio?
number.
Okay.
Is it like 10 to,
Yes.
10 to 1?
10 to 1 for 10 students per staff member chaperone. Okay, because I remember when Kenny went, I want to say the groups were like 4 or 5 per chaperone, but there was parent chaperones also doing that, so I just was wondering. Okay. And so some of those chaperones obviously come from other grade levels or specials or some, you know, and so I would assume that the administration could try to help pick and choose where those chaperones should come from?
Yeah, ideally, you don't want it to be somebody that, you know, is going to be servicing whatever needs that they need for the other grade levels. Now they won't be able to get subs for them.
Right.
So how can we make this happen with the least impact on the rest of the building?
Right,
But, I
right.
mean, I'm
But
all-
that's a
I'm all for it.
conversation, right?
Yeah, oh,
So,
absolutely.
I'll get that out done and give you guys results.
Perfect, awesome.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else? You're up, Tom.
All right, the following teams have achieved scholar athlete status, and I have to say, I really feel that Central Square leaves, actually, I know that we do, the county in the number of scholar athlete status teams. It's pretty amazing. Girls cross country, competitive cheerleading, boys volleyball, boys golf, girls volleyball, girls tennis, girls soccer, boys cross country, boys soccer. Great job to all. Good news from the music department. On Saturday, November 15, 230 students, grades 7 through 12, auditioned at Paul V. Moore High School for the Oswego County Music Educators Association All-County Honors Bands. The following students from CSMS qualified for the junior high school band: David Borton, Jocelyn Duvall, Andrew Flynn, Madison Fontana, Anika Hip, Layla Hopkins, Walker McDowell, Aiden Mundy, Adeline Newton, Ivy Pay, and Megan Revenoff. The following students qualified for the senior high band: Colton Allen, Keegan Allen, Owen Butcher, Eli Connor, Nathan Downey, Alex Fenton, Daniel Flynn, Avery Ford, Andrew George, Josie Georges, Caitlin Gilbert, Amelia Gill, Liam Hunter, Mason Hunter, Christiana Joelman, Kenzie Katab, Alex Malone, Madigan Murphy, Braxton Nichols, Laurel Pooley, Marilyn Pooley, and Jackson Stevens. From Central Square Middle School, in November, there was a student experiencing a medical emergency. We would like to commend the heroic actions demonstrated by one of our students, Hunter Burns, and the bus driver, Amy Reeder. Under Amy's guidance, Hunter took immediate and thoughtful action by turning the student on her side, elevating her, and carefully monitoring her pulse until help arrived. Hunter displayed compassion and maturity when he joined the other students on the second bus that came to pick them up. He checked in with each student to ensure that no one was recording the incident, respecting the private nature of the situation. Both Hunter and Amy exemplified quick thinking, calmness under pressure, and genuine care for others. Hastings Mallory Elementary School, under the guidance of Mary Jane Quenneville, has received the Helping Hands Shinneman Grant. The project summary is the Hastings Mallory Elementary School Helping Hands Project is a vital initiative created to address the critical challenges of financial instability, food insecurity, and students experiencing transitions or trauma. This grant will fund hygiene supplies, lice treatment services, laundry supplies, peanut-free snacks, food items, footwear, clothing, and comfort items. Huge thank you to MJ for organizing all of that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Can I get a motion for item H in its entirety?
I'll motion.
Get a second? Any discussion? All those in favor? I will make the motion that Central Square Central School District Board of Education hereby move into executive session to discuss matters regarding the superintendent's evaluation with no action to follow. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?